Hey there, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made this dry cured Sujuk. Sujuk is a Turkish sausage, super popular in Turkey and other Middle Eastern countries. Sujuk is most commonly made with beef or lamb or a combination of the two. My Sujuk is going to be a combination of beef, lamb, and venison. So let's just dive right into it. I'll be mixing up some mold 600 Penicillium nalgiavensis. Just going to use a 1/4 teaspoon and a 1/4 cup of water. Traditionally, this sausage has a square shape it gets from being pressed between two boards, and those boards are impregnated with a protective mold. Since I don't have impregnated boards, I'm making this mold up, and I'm doing this the night before, so it'll have at least a good 8 hours for this mold to wake up. I'm going to get the spices ready for my Sujuk, starting with some ones I'm going to toast, which will be black pepper, some allspice, and some coriander. Going to put these into a cold pan, start them toasting on some low heat. Now I'm going to get a few more things weighed up that I want to toast, starting with some cumin. Going with some fenugreek. I don't use fenugreek that often, but I really love it. It's got kind of almost like a butterscotchy smell to me. And a little bit of cloves. All my other spices got a little head start toasting. I'm going to add these on top of there. Keep them toasting. Now I'll get the rest of my seasoning going. Starting with some salt. Going to add some dextrose to feed that starter culture that I'll be mixing up here. Some cayenne pepper for a little bit of that heat. Going in with some paprika. Finally, some sumak. That sumak's going to kind of brighten it up a little bit. Now I'm just going to go grind up those spices that are toasting, add those back, and then we'll move on. Mix this up, and then I'm going to split this into two. I'm going to make a semi-dried and a fully dried version. I'll be adding cure number 2 to the version that's going to be completely dried. And I'll be adding cure number 1 to the version that'll be semi-dried. Well, folks, the semi-dried version of my Sujuk came out way too salty for my liking. I'm not going to show you the rest of that. I'll be using a starter culture to ferment my Sujuk, and the one I'm using is T-SPX. I'm just going to take a 1/4 teaspoon of that, and I'm just going to add a 1/4 cup of water to that or so, and I'm just going to let that sit for 15 minutes, maybe a half hour till I get to it. Let it wake up. What we got here is about 50% beef, about 25% lamb, and this really dark red stuff, that's venison. It's probably a little less than 30% fat, but anywhere 25 to 30% fat's good. Just gonna throw this on into the grinder. Had this meat in the freezer, and you can see that it's, it's like partially frozen. It's not frozen solid, but it's got little ice crystals. It's very cold. It's important to keep everything cold when making sausage. I'm not going to use this unless I have to. Mostly just going to feed it as the grinder takes it. Now I'm just going to take a little ball of it, run that back through, push out any last little bits there. That's a really beautiful grind. All crumbly, very defined. You can see the fat. Perfect. Got my liners on. That's going to make sure this meat stays really cold. Mine is 31 degrees. Right around freezing is perfect. And that's a lot of spice. This is going to be a bold sausage. Going to add half that starter culture I mixed up. And I'm going to add some garlic. Now I'm just going to dig in here and mix. Starting to lift my bowl. Stick into my hand really well. And importantly, you can see it's got kind of these furry little strands reaching out off of it. So that's how we know we're ready to start stuffing them. I'm going to load my stuffer a handful at a time and just push out any air as I go. That's what it looks like when it's full. Next, I'm going to lube up my horn with a little bit of water. I'm going to take my two most useful fingers and spread the end of my casing. And I'm going to get some water inside these casings, load it onto my horn. Traditionally, Sujuk would use a beef casing. I'm using a 40-42 hog casing. I'm going to force the meat to the end of the horn, tie a quick little knot, punch a couple of holes in the end. I'm making C-shaped links today, so I'll pull a few inches of casing off between my links. Now we'll cut them apart and tie the ends together. Got a few different size links going on here, but that's just fine with me. I'm going to take my sterilized sausage picker and make a few holes in the casings. Flip it over and do the same on the other side. And I ran just a little short on casing, so I'm going to make a couple of sausage balls, and I'll dry those in my chamber too. Usually I like to have just one small ball to test the pH with, and I'll wrap that up in a little bit of plastic. To ferment, I'll put my links in a pan. Brush that mold 600 that I mixed up yesterday all over these links. Flip it over to the other side. And I'll put another pan on top of this one with some weight in it to press them into a flat shape. Now these pans fit together nice and tight, and that's going to help keep the humidity level high, at least 85 or 90%, which is what it needs to be to ferment. Right now my house is 68 degrees, which is just perfect for this T-SPX starter culture. Oh boy, I'm a little nervous about this because last night would have been 72 hours, and I did not get back to it last night. So I am a little nervous that it may have gone slightly lower in the pH than what I was going for. See, it definitely firms up quite a bit. It's almost rubbery. Got some bounce back when you push in on it. Let's take a look at the pH here. Okay, it's not too bad. It's a little lower than what I was probably going for, closer to 5 or 8. That's not bad. Let's take a look at these here Sujuk sausages. Does smell really good. All right, we got a flattened shape here. White mold's starting to grow a little. Didn't grow so well right where it's making contact, but that's kind of to be expected. I'm going to get out my scale. So I'm just gonna get a weight on these. I'm going to jot that down, make a little tag for it, put them in my cabinet. Well, my Sujuk has been hanging in my cabinet for 30 days now. It's actually lost 45% of its weight. A little drier than most salamis, most cured sausages I make. My cabinet runs at about 55 degrees Fahrenheit and about 80% humidity. Let's take one out and give it a taste. All right, Sujuk, let's give it a taste. Smells really good. You can definitely see the very fine grind. Well, that to me has a lot of really bright notes. I think that sumak really comes through. Sumak, fenugreek, it obviously has quite a bit of spices in it. But to me, that sumak really brightens it up. That's really tasty. Got a little heat, but the heat, what hits me first is the brightness, and then the warmth kind of starts to come in. The white mold, Penicillium nalgiavensis, mold 600, is 100% edible. If you're freaked out about eating mold, go ahead and wash it off with some vinegar or some wine, even some lemon juice, anything acidic, really. I think it adds to the flavor. Kind of adds a little bit of a cheesy note to it. But yeah, the warmth, the heat kind of does, it builds a little. It's not what hits you first, but the warmth builds. I wouldn't call it a spicy sausage. However, if you don't like spice, you might not like this. But it's more of the warming feeling than the spicy hot feeling. I'm into this. I think it's good. I understand why this is so popular in Turkey and throughout the Middle East. If you don't eat pork, but you like the cured meat vibe, I totally see why this would be popular. And the heat is on my tongue. It's not really in my throat. And like I said, it's the brightness that hits me first. It really hits me with the brightness. And then that heat, just the warming notes kind of start to wash over my tongue and my taste buds. I'll give this Sujuk a thumbs up. And if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel and you're still watching at this point, you should probably subscribe. You probably like a lot of my other content. And whatever you do, put some love into the food you make. Peace.